Hope Spencer had awakened that Monday morning believing the world, at long last, was tilting back toward balance. After weeks of agonizing over Liam's silence and Carter's sudden retreat from their tentative romance, she had decided quietly, cautiously to risk her heart on Carter once more. She rehearsed her words as she moved through the rooms of Brooke's house, tracing the familiar scent of lemon polish on the banisters and listening to the steady tick of the old Forrester clock that had witnessed more confessions than any human ear ever could. She imagined Carter's face when she told him she was ready to try, ready to believe in the future he had painted in gentle, reverent brushstrokes. Across town, Carter paced the length of his loft, phone in hand, anticipation vibrating in every nerve. He drafted a single-line text to Daphne Rose, an obligatory courtesy, he thought, before he severed the past and stepped into something true with hope. But even as his thumb hovered above send, the apartment door swung open and Daphne stood there, her eyes glassy with something between defiance and desperation. A soft morning sun behind her cast an almost angelic glow around her silhouette, belying the storm she carried in her voice. She told him she was pregnant. She said the life inside her had already altered the rhythm of her pulse, that she could feel an entire universe expanding under her ribs, but she would end it cut short that cosmos if Carter refused to leave Los Angeles with her immediately. In the stillness that followed, Carter heard the clock on his wall fall strangely in sync with the one at Brooke's house, each second an accusation, each second a threat. He tried to reason with Daphne, tried to recall the compassionate litigator who could untangle any conflict with calm logic, yet logic collapsed under the weight of her ultimatum. Visions tumbled through his mind in empty nursery, a son or daughter he might never meet, hope waiting by the fire at Brooke's. Hope. Carter felt his resolve fracture. Daphne pressed harder, tears streaking her cheeks, voice rising until the promise of flight became the only rope left between them. When she stepped forward and placed his hand on her abdomen, Carter felt a flutter that was either life beginning or his own heart falling. The decision crystallized with brutal clarity. If saving that life meant losing hope, he would still go. Daphne's sobbing eased into exhausted gratitude as Carter gathered a duffel, stuffed it with whatever would fit, and followed her out, every step echoing like a farewell he dared not voice. At the very hour Carter surrendered his Los Angeles future, Steffi Forrester sat in her car outside Brooke's estate, fingers trembling against the steering wheel. Liam's plea to keep his diagnosis secret hammered her conscience. Protect Hope from pain. Protect Thomas from guilt. Protect. But Hope deserved the truth, and Steffi felt that truth burning in her throat like acid. She rang the bell, and when Hope answered, sunlight pooled behind her, painting her golden hair, but Steffi saw only the shadow that would soon eclipse that light. Inside, she struggled to breathe around the words, and when they finally escaped, "It's about Liam," her composure shattered. Hope's panic flared, questions spilled, overlapping. Steffi's confession came out in jagged fragments. Inoperable tumor, rapid progression, seizures masked as stress, a prognosis whispered in antiseptic corridors while monitors beeped a countdown. The air thickened until the living room felt too small to hold their grief. Hope's knees buckled and Steffi caught her, two women knotted together by histories of rivalry, but now fused by shared terror. Tears smeared mascara, soaking silk blouses, but neither noticed. They were bracing against a reality that threatened to tear the ground away. In that suspended moment, every argument over Liam, every bitter accusation dissolved. All that remained was the man they both loved, slipping through the hourglass. They clung to each other, trembling, even as unspoken questions howled. Who would Liam choose to comfort him? Who would nurse him through the nights when pain eclipsed consciousness? Could either relinquish the vigil? They knew the answers would seed a new war even before the old wounds had healed. Miles to the south, at the Cliff House, Sheila's latest mischief rippled like toxic perfume. Luna, still bruised by scandal, still banned from Finn's orbit by Steffi's iron decree, arrived unannounced under Sheila's manipulative encouragement. The roar of the ocean below matched the roar in Luna's ears as she stepped across the threshold Finn reluctantly offered. She saw in him all the stability she had lost, the healer's steadiness, the father's tenderness, the husband's devotion. She reminded him softly at first, then with mounting urgency, that he was a man who never turned his back on blood. She spoke of Tom Starr's unresolved tragedy, of Paul Hollister's broken trust, and most piercingly of Steffi's unforgiving edict that walled him off from his own past. Luna's eyes gleamed with conviction as she predicted a day when Finn would see beyond the chaos and reach for reconciliation. Finn's response was firm yet pained. He invoked vows, children, a fragile peace he could not jeopardize. But Luna's refusal to retreat etched itself onto his conscience. Every heartbeat between them sounded like a question that might echo for years. Evening draped the city in violet haze when news of Carter's abrupt departure filtered through Forrester corridors. Hope, still raw from Steffi's revelation, stared at her phone, rereading the single line Carter had finally sent. "I'm sorry." No explanation. No mention of Daphne. Just sorry. The word felt like gravel in her palm, small, rough, impossible to hold without bleeding. Rage flashed, but grief drowned it before it could ignite. Somewhere across town a plane lifted off, its trajectory carving a new emptiness in her sky. And somewhere beyond her comprehension, Liam lay in a hospital bed, monitors flickering green constellations across dim walls. His eyes fluttered open to both women in his life standing on opposite sides of the bed, promising unity and caregiving even as the storm of competition brewed behind their forced smiles. Nurses' footsteps clicked like metronomes measuring how swiftly hope could curdle into despair. The tumor cast a long shadow. In its darkness, friendships, romances, and fragile ceasefires alike would twist, fracture, and perhaps find unexpected rebirth. By the week's end, Los Angeles itself seemed to pulse with secrets. At Il Giardino, whispers of Daphne's pregnancy and Carter's flight rippled among diners like an undercurrent beneath soft jazz. At Forrester Creations, Steffi and Hope's polite coordination of Liam's medical schedule grew brittle as design meetings devolved into fraught silences. Ridge sensed tectonic plates shifting beneath his family, but could not locate the fault line. Taylor watched her daughter shoulder impossible burdens and wondered when compassion would metastasize into sacrifice. And Finn, gazing at the ocean from the Cliff House deck, felt Luna's words humming like a violin string stretched to breaking. He slipped a hand over his chest, as if to ascertain whether loyalty alone could keep a heart from fracturing. Unbeknownst to him, Luna stood on the sand below, eyes fixed on the same horizon, vowing that waves cannot forever erase the footprints of those willing to return. Through it all, the ticking clocks at Brooks Estate and Carter's abandoned loft continued their duet, each second a reminder that choices once made echo beyond walls, beyond oceans, even beyond the fragile boundaries between life and death. Hope, sitting at Liam's bedside, counted those seconds against the rise and fall of his breathing. Steffi, in the corridor, pressed a hand to the glass and did the same. Somewhere in mid-flight, Carter closed his eyes and felt the phantom pulse of both clocks beating in his chest, an arrhythmic symphony of regret and resolve. And high above the Pacific, the plane's engines roared a lullaby for futures rewritten, for hearts rerouted, for the inexorable pull of consequences that no one, not Daphne with her ultimatum, not Luna with her prophecy, Not even Steffi with her confession could escape.
Oh,